Hello, Algebra 2 students. I just want to go over solving this quadratic really quickly. Using our kind of flow chart here, we know that the b term is not 0. The b term is in fact 6 here, so we're not going to use solving using square roots. The a term is 1, so we would try factoring this. When you attempt to factor this, you would list the factors of 121. The factors of 121, regardless of which factors you choose, are never going to get you to 6. Right? That's what it would take to be able to factor this equation. And so then you would have to complete the square. Now, completing the square, remember, means that you're going to pick the c term. Right now, the c term is 121. It's not what we want it to be. So we'd have x squared plus 6x. Move that c term to this side, you'd have minus 21. Now we're going to go ahead and pick the c term. Remember, the c term that we want is half of the b term and then squared. So currently the b term is 6. We would take half of that to get to 3 and then square that. The c term that we want is going to be positive 9. Half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9. Now we can't just take 9 and add it to one spot. We would have to add it to the other side as well, meaning that the left side of our equation is going to be negative 112. Oh, sorry, the right side of our equation. The left side will always factor because this is completing the square. Square doesn't mean square, it means square. So it's going to factor into something squared. What multiplies to 9 that adds to 6, that would be plus 3. Continuing to solve this quadratic, we would take the square root of both sides. X plus 3 is equal to the square root of negative plus or minus the square root of negative 112. Now, remember how to simplify your square roots. And if you forget, please revisit the lecture from section 4.5 on how to do this. But what you have to do is you have to say, hey, does 112 have any perfect square factors? 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, and so on and so forth. Do any of these numbers perfectly divide 112? I'm guessing one does. I'm just messing around with my calculator here. I'm typing in 112, and then divided by these numbers. See if any of them are factors. 112 is divisible by 16. So this would equal, x plus 3 is equal to, still have the plus or minus, and 16 times 7 is 112, and 16 is one of these numbers. So you'd break it up as root 16, root 7, and then remember, because it's the square root of a negative, you would also have a square root of negative 1. We know that the square root of negative 1 is I, and we know that the square root of 16 is 4. And we like both of those, if they come out of the square root, to be written before the root. So this would be plus or minus 4I root 7. The 16, square root of 16 is 4. Square root of negative 1 is I, and square root of 7 can't be simplified. We're almost done here. We'd subtract the 3 to both sides. Negative 3 plus or minus 4I root 7. So that was us solving this quadratic using completing the square. We ended up with negative 3 plus or minus 4I root 7. Now what I want to do is I want to show you that you could also get this answer by using the quadratic formula, and we should end up, like I said, with the exact same answer. Let's do that over here on the left. We still have the same quadratic that we're starting out with, x squared plus 6x plus 121. The a term is just going to be 1, the b term is going to be 6, and the c term is going to be 121. The quadratic formula, of course, is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Let's go ahead and plug these numbers in. Plugging in 6 for b, that's going to be negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 121 all over 2 times 1. What I've told you guys to do is type in the stuff underneath the square root. So it'll be negative 6 plus or minus the square root sign still. Don't type in the square root in your calculator, but type all of this into your calculator. 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 121 is going to give us negative 448. And that's over 2. Just like we simplified the square root of negative 112 over here, we're going to have to simplify the square root of 448. We're still going to look at those perfect square factors, the 1, the 4, the 9, the 16, and this list that goes on forever, looking for the biggest factor of 448. So I've got my calculator here, 448. I'm going to divide it by some of these numbers, and I'm looking for the biggest number in this list. You guys should have a list in your notes. The biggest number in this list that is going to divide them is actually going to be 64. That's the biggest number that's going to divide 448 evenly. Okay, you guys can get this by doing 448 divided by, and then pick a number. 448 divided by, pick the next number. You're looking for when it comes out nicely. So you get negative 6 plus or minus. What I told you guys is 64 is the biggest root that evenly divides 448. It's 64 times 7 is 448. Remember, because it's negative, we're going to also peel out this square root of negative 1. And this is all going to be over 2. The square root of 64 is going to be 8. And the square root of negative 1 is I. So we're going to have 8I root 7 over 2. We are nearing our final answer here. We're going to just divide both of these by 2. Dividing the negative 6 by 2 would give us negative 3. And dividing this 8I root 7 over 2, the 8 and the 2 can simplify to 4. So we have negative 3 plus or minus 4I root 7. Notice we did get the same answer as using completing the square method. And you guys are going to need to know how to do both. And then when you arrive at a situation, to pick whichever one works better for you. Let me know if you guys have any questions.